What is up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Unhinged Diaries podcast. So today's episode is going to be a part 2 to the dark side of pretty privilege. I did my first episode based on Jennifer's body, so I definitely wanted this episode to be based on Marilyn Monroe. And for that, it's because I feel like it correlates together, believe it or not, like the dark side of pretty privilege and basically my approach on the whole topic within itself. I feel like it goes perfect with Marilyn Monroe's story. When it comes to Marilyn Monroe's story, I get so frustrated on the fact that she's just very known for her beauty and for her trauma, her tragedy, and her story. No one talks about how intelligent she was, how she was dealt with the worst cards possible, and yet she turned it into like a legacy. She's such an icon, a legend, like all of it. And I feel like no one ever talks about that because, like I said, the whole approach that I'm taking when it comes to the dark side of pretty privilege, and so everyone just treats the looks like the surface level shit when it comes to these people that I'm talking about. They treat that as the most interesting thing about them. And even with the whole Jennifer's body, I could have taken a deeper approach in the fact that like people don't treat Megan Fox like she isn't intelligent, as she isn't like funny and all that and interesting. They just treat her like as if she's like really important and interesting because specifically her looks. So I definitely wanted to just tackle on that approach with this episode. So I hope you guys enjoy that. But y'all know the drill. For my continuing listeners or viewers, I like to go on with my podcast episodes talking about a positive thing that happened to me this week and a negative. And luckily this week was really good because I know the past couple weeks it was a little dark, but this week it was really good because, as you can see for my visual viewers, I got my lips done. So that's something I've always wanted to do. Like, I've always wanted to get, a little bit of lip filler, that can't hurt anybody. I have half a syringe right now because I could have gotten the full syringe, but like, it's never good to just put on that much so like soon because migration can happen, and it's just really good to like space out those sessions. So I have half a syringe right now, and I'm gonna get my other half in like about 3 weeks. So I'm really excited about that. That was like such a big like, I literally love them. This is literally half a syringe, and if you just look at my other videos, you'll see, or even I'll even try to post a picture here before and after, like you can see the difference. And it's like such a minor difference, but it like does a lot. Can't even imagine if I went in with actual like lipstick and stuff like that. But I haven't been like putting on any lipstick or anything like that because I want my lips to heal, and I just don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it. This is my face. So that was that. I think the most exciting thing that happened to me this week is the fact that I was on TMZ. I was on TMZ Live, and that was like such a big milestone because I felt like all of it was just like not real at all. Like, I'm in some weird simulation of like some sort. It's just, what the hell? Like, what's going on? Because I received a DM from TMZ on my TikTok. They're just like, hey, are you interested in coming onto our show and like having a 10 to 30-second comment of an article of your choosing, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like going up to my coworkers like, yo, am I like seeing things? Like, am I imagining what I'm looking at right now? They're like, Allie, they're like, who wants her days off? Because she's going to end up leaving us. She's going to be famous. And I'm like, oh my God, so I'm not imagining this right now. Like, what? And then last week on Wednesday is when I was supposed to originally go on TMZ Live, but it turns out that the article that I was given when I was sitting there waiting for it to be my turn where I can give my comment got cut because like they were really behind. They were behind schedule and stuff like that, and they were willing to offer me the next article that they were going to be talking about, which was Hailey Bieber discussing her food cravings, like her pregnancy food cravings. And I was just like, I don't have shit to really comment when it comes to that because it's gonna be like a 3-second comment. Like, I have nothing to contribute to that conversation. So I rescheduled for Monday, and I went on their live on Monday, which I don't know if I'm gonna add a clip, okay?
Say something after Diddy put out his apology, and she said Combs' most recent statement is more about himself than the many people he has hurt. When Cassie and multiple other women came forward, he denied everything and suggested that his victims were looking for a payday, that he was only compelled to apologize once his repeated denials were proven false, shows his pathetic desperation, and no one will be swayed by his disingenuous words.
Hi, it's Allie from New Jersey, and I feel like all the backlash that Diddy's been receiving has been justified, and I find it even more interesting that he wore all white as his first appearance in the public since everything has come out, and I feel like that says a lot on if he's sorry or not.
Yeah, you're not the first person to say that, by the way. Other people have also talked about his choice of wardrobe.
Right.
Okay, we are going to take a break.
All right, when we come back.
It was like such a big milestone for me because I'm like, wow, like it's crazy. James Charles like recognized my content through TikTok not so long ago, and now I'm like on TMZ. It's like, what other opportunities am I gonna manifest this year? You know, like I'd be looking at my vision board, and sometimes I would get so discouraged because I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough to tackle the things that are on there. But at the same time, it's like that's kind of the point. Like, you don't need to be so attached to your goals where every single day you wake up and it's like, I need to like do everything. Like, no, like breathe and enjoy life, and it's going to come to you. Like when you start having that mindset that it's already yours, like it's already yours, it would just magically fall in your lap. Like weird shit, you know? I feel like we live in a society where it's so romanticized, where it's like you need to be so deeply attached to your goals, and you need to be every single day waking up and like working so hard towards it to the point where it's like you can't even enjoy it when it's happening, you know? And I feel like it's like so normalized. I feel like a lot of people start to procrastinate because all that pressure and all of that, where it's like I've been feeling so much more peace releasing a lot of that pressure, and it's like, okay, it's already mine. Like the success that I want, the people that I want to reach, the people that I want to inspire, all the things that I want to accomplish in my life, it's already mine. So of course I need to take steps. Like I need to film this episode. Like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, okay, I'm just gonna sit on my ass and just like click my toes together and it's gonna happen. No, like I am filming this episode because one, I want to, and two, it's, you know, it's an action that I'm taking that's taking me forward to where I want to be. Take actions, but don't drown yourself. Like there was a time where I literally would wake up, it's like I need to find episode topics that are popular, that is gonna make me go viral. And it's like when I did that, my videos I feel like were shit. Whereas when I'm like, okay, let me talk about something that I'm really excited about, that I really want to create a conversation about, whether it's popular or not. And I know the more passion I put behind a video, magically it just does better because people could feel my energy, you know? So it's like you need to find a balance, like releasing pressure while also simultaneously like putting in the work, you know? That's really what it came down to. And yeah, it was just really a good week. And the negative aspect of this week, I don't really think I have any. Like I've been doing really good. I've been going to the gym. I think the only thing I struggle with, and I feel like everybody does, is just discipline on a lot of things. Like sometimes I feel like I procrastinate too much. Sometimes I feel like I'm not eating enough. And there's like things that I feel like I'm slacking on that I could do better on. So that's like I guess the most negative thing that could possibly be happening to me this week was just like the fact that like I'd be like, I can be a little too hard on myself is what I'm trying to say, where it's like I feel like I could be doing more. I feel like I could be more disciplined in certain areas in my life. But at the same time, like I said, it's just not healthy for me to drown myself like how I was months ago. Because if you even look at my previous episodes where I'm talking about like the dark, like the negative parts of my week, is always coming down to just discipline. So like I am happy now that it's like, yes, that's going to be a negative part of me that happens to me during the week because it's like, you know, something that I feel a lot, but it's like I'm also practicing like letting go and releasing all that pressure, and I feel like it's putting me in a better place. Like I could truly say within the past 2 weeks it hasn't even been that bad because like, I've been like releasing a lot of pressure. Like, okay, like breathe, bitch, breathe. Like your goals, they're gonna be accomplished. Or I need to learn how, I feel like people in this generation, we need to normalize using time like in a way that's beneficial for us, because I feel like a lot of us, especially being in your 20s, it's like we feel like time is like our enemy. We're like, oh my god, I'm only 24, it's like I'm about to be fucking 30, I don't feel like I accomplished enough. And it's like, yes, don't sit on your ass and just like let life pass you by, but also be present, you know? Like you can be present and enjoy things. Like you can also like learn to just like use time in your favor. Like if you want to like accomplish something, it's okay to like, you know, like use time in your favor in a sense where it's like, okay, repetition is gonna, you know, practice makes perfect. It's okay to let time, you know, like use time in your favor in a sense where it's like, okay, I want to take this amount of time to accomplish a goal. Because I feel like a lot of us, we have unrealistic expectations when it comes to a goal, or we want this so fast without all the blood, sweat, and tears, you know? So I feel like there's a balance when it comes to that. And I feel like I'm rambling now. So yeah, I guess that's what I can really say that happened to me this week. Was I was on TMZ, I got my lips done, I did get my hair done. Yeah, I don't think my last episode I had my hair, because I know my pink faded and it was like a pinkish blonde. Now it's like blonde. Like I let go of the pink. She was an era that is now closed. It's an era that's in the past, I guess, because I don't know, who knows if I'll visit pink again, because I really do love my pink. But I don't know, I feel like this like spiritual transition that I experienced in April, I was like, I just want to present myself differently. Like I want to show up as a like different version of myself. Like I don't know, I'll definitely get into that in another episode, because that's like a whole thing within itself. But yeah, so like I really feel like if you're looking at me and you're looking at my previous videos, you're probably like, what the fuck, like this bitch really just changed her aesthetic. And if you're wondering why, now you know. I went through some weird like spiritual transition during April, like the month of April, because that was a really rough month for me. And I was just like, I just want to present myself a different way. I just want to think differently. Like I want to just I want to like think better thoughts. I want to take different sort of actions and just like try something new. Because you know what they say, if you keep doing the same thing every day and you expect different results, it's like insanity. So it's like I wanted to try a different approach when it comes to the way that I think, the way that I present myself. And like I said, I'll explain that in further detail in another episode, because I'm rambling again. But yeah, so that's basically my little life updates. Now, like 11 minutes in, we're finally getting to the episode. As you can see from today's title, we are going to be talking about the dark side of pretty privilege, and it's going to be about Marilyn Monroe. And what I'm basically doing is I feel like I want to highlight areas in her life that I feel like is not talked about enough. And it's like really sit there and like really like dive into why I feel like this correlates with the topic of the ugly side of pretty privilege. Because I feel like her looks, and I feel like the fact that she was like such a sex icon took away from how intelligent this woman is. She's literally my lock screen. Like she's my lock screen, because I look up to her. Because at first I was just like, if you see my previous episodes, a couple episodes back, I made an episode on seduction, because I'm like, oh my God, like I feel like there's a lot we can learn from Marilyn Monroe. But the more I really started diving into documentaries about her, I was like, whoa, like this woman is intelligent. Like there's so much about her that I feel like I feel like a lot of people don't even know. I feel like I will forever be impressed with this woman and what she has gone through, and she just kept going. She kept going. And it's sad that it ended at one point. You know, there's one point when she just stopped and she crumbled. But I just don't want this episode to be based on her tragedy and her trauma, because I feel like that's all that people are really interested in. People are interested in her trauma. People are interested on like her appearance and her sex appeal. Let's talk about her upbringing. Let's talk about her dedication, her mind, the way that she was just so fearless. She just kept going. So that's what we're going to talk about. But of course, in order for us to do that, we have to start from the beginning. So little Miss Marilyn Monroe, whose real name is Norma, had a really difficult upbringing. Her mother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and her father was just not present whatsoever in her life. And because of that instability, she ended up bouncing from foster home to foster home. And you have to keep in mind that during this time, foster care was seen as a money-making scheme compared to it being an act of compassion. So you have to keep that in mind on how devastating that must be, where it's like, dang, you're not even taking me in because you love me, and you're trying to be like selfless. You're actually selfish. To keep in mind also that the fact that like a lot of the time, anyone who's ever been down in the system, they'll tell you that like the system could be very neglectful. There's a lot of abuse. And in this case, when it comes to Marilyn, like she dealt with all of the above. She dealt with neglect from these families. She dealt with abuse. And she even said how she was SA'd and she developed a stutter because of the trauma. In order for her to escape the system, she ended up marrying at the age of 16, and her husband was 21. Side eye. But you know, like you have to understand like how difficult that must have been for her, because her whole literally her whole entire upbringing, all she's ever known is like chaos. So I can't imagine her being like, okay, if this is my ticket to escaping this chaos and giving myself a better life, then I'll do what I have to do, you know? But it is disgusting and predatory, and shame on him or shame on whoever allowed this. She ended up getting a little itty bitty 9 to 5, and that's where she ended up meeting a photographer who saw her and recognized her, and that's where she got her toes dipped into the modeling world, and that's where she ended up discovering her passion for acting. So she ended up getting signed to her first movie contract in 1946 and was dropped, and she ended up being signed with Columbia in 1948 and was dropped again. And I feel like this detail is very interesting with the fact that, like, I feel like a lot of people find it so when they see like such a popular star icon and like they experience rejection in the beginning, because I feel like we live in a world now where it's like that instant gratification. It's so easy to blow up without even having to put blood, sweat, and tears. Where it's like back then, the biggest stars today have experienced so much rejection. They experienced so many doors being slammed in their face. And I love the fact that Marilyn Monroe was no exception to that. So this is no news when it comes to like the acting world, the industry, how a lot of actors will tell you that in the beginning, you're going to make little to no money. And that was no exception to Marilyn Monroe. She was not making any sort of money really when she first started off. So times are hard, like bills needed to get paid, and she ended up posing nude for just $50 just to pay for her car payment. And I'm only laughing because it's like, dang, like nowadays $50 is like you mean to tell me you're gonna see my goodies for $50? But of course, like at that time $50 is probably a lot more. So but it's like insane, because what's interesting is the fact that like she like was paid this money because times were hard, but the following year her career started really popping off, that when these like photos resurfaced or they just started blowing up and becoming really popular, it's like it kind of bit her in the ass, but didn't, because it's like it bit her in the ass where anyone could be like, oh, scandalous, but it actually worked in her favor because of the creepy fact is that Hugh Hefner, he bought the rights to the photos. He made it the centerfold for his magazine Playboy, as we all know, which the fact that she like basically put him on with her photos is insane. But what's even more disturbing about that is the fact that like she even went out and said that she found it interesting that he never thanked her. She never got any money or any sort of like, girl, like I'm like literally popping off to the fullest capacity because of you. She never got her like flowers where it's due, you know? But what's even more creepy about fucking Kermit the Friendly Frog, fucking Hugh Hefner, is the fact that like he sat there and fucking bought like he fucking purchased a grave besides Marilyn Monroe so he could be buried beside her. That doesn't like tell you that doesn't show you another level of creepiness. I don't know what will. Like I always find that so icky. Like first of all, he just had this weird obsession with her, which she's hot and beautiful, talented, all the above. But the fact that like he bought the rights to her photos and then he wanted to be buried beside her is like a different level of creepy. Is that just me? I don't know. So now circling back to how, like I said, it bit her in the ass, but didn't. Like it bit her in the ass where it's like, oh my God, like scandal, like your nudes are like resurfacing. But it also worked in her favor, not only because of the fact that like she was like, you know, the star of like Playboy, but it was because of the fact that like when all this resurfaced, she was very straightforward about like when she was asked like, why did you take these photos? She was like, hey, times are hard. And I feel like a lot of people respected her honesty, and it actually really did boost her career because of just like how just like carefree she was about it. She's like, hey, times are fucking hard. You would do it too for a check. Marilyn Monroe ended up dating and marrying the famous baseball player Joe DiMaggio, and I feel like this correlates with this topic of the dark side of pretty privilege so heavily because of the fact that like he was infatuated with an image of her. He wanted a housewife, but she loved work. She loved her craft. He didn't want that. it's almost like he wanted possession of her, is what I really took from really when I started like really doing more research on their relationship and their marriage. It was giving he wanted that possession, because the thing that even ruffled my feathers even more, not only did he want a housewife, but he resented the fact that she was like this sex icon, which I would never be able to wrap my head around the fact that, like, when a man bags a baddie, why are you shocked that she's baddieing? She's a baddie. Like, she's gonna get attention. Like, you knew what you signed up for. I would never be able to wrap my head around that. Like, you will see that so much. Like, a guy will bag a baddie, and then he's, like, shocked with all this attention that she's getting, or this intimidation he feels by her. It's like, you knew what you signed up. Like, I'm like, so, especially Marilyn Monroe. Like, why would you get with her and then be upset that she's a sex icon? I'm sure that's probably why you even was like heavily attracted to her. So it's like, what? To make things even worse is there was a lot of discussion on the fact that he was abusive. And she even like filed for divorce, and she said that it was just like, he was just awful to her. Basically, it was said that he felt so awful and he apologized and begged to her for forgiveness. And they ended up being cool after the divorce, but I think what's even more like devastating in a way, like I say in a way, because you could form your own opinion to this, but he ended up blaming himself when it came to the fact that he couldn't save her. Because of course, as we all know, she started struggling with addiction, and she ended up passing away because of that. And he said he blamed himself, and he even went as far as dropping roses to her grave 3 times a week for the next 20 years. So I'm like, dang. But then again, like I said, you could form your own opinion, because I'm like, is it guilt? Because you treated her awfully, you contributed to her trauma. That's how I took it. Because a lot of people are like, oh my God, like he's so sweet, he loved her. That's how I took it. But form your own opinion. Comment down below. Circling back to the discussion of the dark side of pretty privilege is the fact that, like, I feel like a lot of people look at Marilyn Monroe and think, well, she only got as successful as she did because she just took photos and blew up one day, which that's actually the complete opposite. The thing that I really started like getting really wowed about was the fact that like her dedication to her craft. Like, she was starting off modeling, and she was just so dedicated on like just being the best version of herself that she could possibly be, to the point where she would go up to photographers and ask for feedback and studied her photos. You know how interesting that is? Like, you can say, oh, like someone just got a pretty face and that's how they got successful. And that could be the case for some people, but for her, she took it to another level. Like, she used the things that like she was blessed with and used it to her advantage. And she knew what to do with that power, you know? And I feel like for her, the fact that she was like, okay, I need to be better. Like, I need to be the best that I could possibly be. So in order for me to do that, I need to go above and beyond. To like photographers, how should I pose? What is the best, most flattering angles of me? I can only imagine like how far she went when it came to that. And also for 5 years straight, she took every single job handed to her in regards to acting and not complained at all. She worked even harder when it came to the big roles that she landed, and she even went as far as befriending studio reporters to get that extra publicity boost. So like, you know, she was pulling a little Kim Kardashian. It's like, okay, like connections is so important. People don't realize that. Like, people think that if you just have a degree that it could like obviously get you far, but like connections can get you even farther. Like, you could have no degree, nothing, but like connections is so important. And I feel like Kim will forever be that like spokesperson when it comes to just like connections alone can get you really far. I think another very interesting fact was the fact that like she would read classic literature to improve her limited formal education. She dropped out when like around the time where she like, you know, got married, like I believe 16. Like, she dropped out really, really young, but point blank, point period, she dropped out of high school. And you know, like because of that limits her like education. So the fact that she sat there was like, okay, I'm gonna be reading books and just improving myself, improving my knowledge. Like, people don't realize like how important that is and how interesting that is. She really did resent being seen as a dumb blonde, because I feel like that's what a lot of people know her as. It's like, oh, her characters were really funny and entertaining. Like, she was this hot, beautiful, you know, bimbo. And back then, being called a bimbo was so offensive, whereas now it's like a compliment. It's a trend on TikTok, but she resented it. So because she resented it so much, she worked harder to bring more to a movie than like sex appeal. She took acting classes, a bunch of it. And what's even more interesting that really stood out to me was the fact that she took action against wanting to increase her salary due to the fact that like she was like the biggest star of the company Fox, and she wasn't getting paid what she should have got paid. So because of that, she started rebelling and she walked out on her contract, and she became the second woman ever to fund her own production studio. And the irony in that is the fact that the rebellion ended up working in her favor because Fox ended up increasing her salary and they gave her creative control over her career, which we love a woman that stands on business. This is what happens when you stand on business. If you do, it's going to work in your favor. So I feel like a lot of people are afraid to stand on business because they're afraid of what they could lose, or they're afraid of like not trusting themselves. And I feel like that was such a quality that I thought was so interesting and like attractive. Like people think she's just attractive and fascinating physically, but the fact that she was always trying to improve herself, she was always taking acting classes, she would talk to everybody and always wanted feedback, she was always working hard. And to keep in mind the starter that she had, like she was like, she had her imperfections and she was always just trying to get better. When it came to modeling, she always looked at her photos and wanted to like do better. And it's like she even went as far as really just like standing her ground, like I deserve to get paid more. She was blowing up and she was like, you know what, I'm gonna stand by myself. And the fact that she trusted herself and did that, it's like, girl, Miss Girl. The thing that I feel like really humanizes her even more and makes her even more relatable is the fact that like despite how confident she is, she suffered with horrible stage fright. Like it was even said that she would suffer with these rashes on her body before she would even like film a scene. And I feel like that's so interesting because when you see her work, you would never think that she's insecure. Like you would never think that she struggled just like any of us out there. Like it was even said that she struggled to remember her lines. She forgot technical requirements like hitting her mark, walking out of like the light or like the focus and stuff like that. And editors even had to often patchwork because everything was just like, what the fuck, bitch? People said that like they felt like it was a lack of confidence because she had it. Like she really had it. Like there was somebody that said that it took her 37 takes to finish one simple scene, which it is kind of crazy, but it wouldn't be held against her because people would say that due to her being able to like film a scene in one take, like they know that she had that capability. So I'm sure if like she was that hard to work with and she couldn't film one scene in one take, or she was just that hard to work with when it came to that aspect, I feel like they wouldn't continue to work with her. But I feel like one, they saw like how dedicated she was to just get better, and two, it's like I feel like it just really did humanize her, and the fact that we're like, wow, like this woman who's just so confident, like people deemed her as the sexiest person around that era, and yet she was just like any other person. Like she worked so hard, she had her imperfections, but she just knew what she wanted, she knew who she wanted to be, and she ended up being her. And I think that's so fascinating, and it really frustrated me for so long, especially when I started looking at these documentaries where people were really like talking all this shit like, oh, like she's so hot, she's so sexy, she's just like she's seductive, or people even went as far as calling her a whore and shit, like all these things that like they would talk about her, but they would never talk about her intelligence, her dedication to her craft, the fact that she was dealt with the worst cards possible. She still made a name for herself. I think that's so beautiful and so empowering, and it's just so fascinating, and it would make me so mad, but I feel like it correlates with my original, topic in hand, is the fact that like the ugly side of pretty privilege is the fact that people would treat your appearance, people would treat the seductive side of you, what you wear, like all these like surface level shit as the most interesting thing about you. And I think her biggest downfall was the fact that like she didn't have like you could tell all she ever wanted was to be loved. And I think that's what frustrated me even more, was the fact that like she wanted to be loved. And I feel like all these men that she married, you can tell they just, in my personal opinion, I feel like they just wanted possession of her. Because it's like, being married to Marilyn Monroe. It's not like, oh, hey, like, I love this woman. I love her mind. I love the way that she thinks. I want to nurture her and protect her. It's none of that. It was giving like control, like Joe DiMaggio. Like, that's why, like, when people be like, oh my God, he's so romantic, he gave her like flowers like several times a week for 20 years. I feel like it's out of guilt. Because if you actually loved her, why would you be trying to stop the thing that she loved that made her so happy? That was my observation. I was just like, I don't know. Like, that really did ruffle my feathers. I was just like, like, what? Like, how are you gonna sit here and claim that you love her, that you feel like, of course you could feel guilt, but like, that, I feel like that's really what it comes down to. Because if you actually did love her, you would accept. I feel like love is you're accepting someone for who they are, like, which is really the main point of this conversation. Is when it comes to the dark side of pretty privilege, a lot of people won't even see you as a person. They like, it just becomes like surface level, and it becomes possession. People will just want possession of you because of what they gain from having you in their hands, compared to love, like what love actually is, where it's like they accept you for who you are. They see you as a person. They see the qualities that you possess, and they want to learn more about you. They want to pour and invest into you. When it came to these marriages that I've seen, when it came to Marilyn Monroe, I did not see that. In my personal opinion, like I said, I wasn't there behind the scenes. I wasn't a fly on the wall and saw every single moment that she had with her partners. But that's just my basic observation, was the fact that I'm like, I don't see that. Like, I don't see them pouring into her, loving her unconditionally. It felt conditional. And that's the tragedy of this, actually. I feel like people treated her tragedy as her having an addiction to alcohol. Of course, the cards that she was dealt. I felt like the true tragedy is, as confident as she was just very, like, deeply insecure and yearning for love. And of course, every confident person that you know out there, everybody's flawed. Everybody has imperfections. Everybody has insecurities. So I'm not saying that like there's anything wrong with her having insecurities. It's the fact that, like, I just truly feel like no one really ever saw her. I don't think even now a lot of people see her. Like, I feel like a lot of people just see the surface level shit of her. But it's like, did anyone really, like, wanted to actually get to know her, to protect her, to love her? But then again, it also comes with the conversation of, like, did she want that for herself, you know? Did she even know what that even looked like? I don't know. Food for thought. But yeah, that is basically everything for today's podcast episode. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts and opinions on Marilyn's marriages. Like, I don't know if that's just my opinion personally, where it's like, I don't feel like any of them really loved her. Like, I feel like a lot of them just wanted possession of her. They, like, even, like, take away the fame from her. Because, like I said, the conversation of pretty privilege, it could be a person that's not famous at all, someone that doesn't have a following or any, like, not popular at all. Like, the dangers of, like, pretty privilege is the fact that, like, a lot of people would just see your appearance or the surface levels, like the surface level qualities that you possess, as the most interesting thing about you. And for her, I feel like that was her case so much. But like I said, did she know what actual genuine love looked like? Because maybe she thought that that was the only thing that she had to offer in relationships and marriages. Like I said, I could really go a whole nother, like, I can go a whole nother video with that aspect of that conversation. But yeah, that's the most devastating part about all of this. And I think that's the sad part in her marriages, is the fact that, like, did any of them legitimately, authentically love her, like, unconditionally? And it's sad because a lot of them said, like, oh, she was a train wreck, like, she had a lot of demons that she was battling. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it takes two to tango, because she definitely had her demons and she definitely had her self-destructing, like, qualities. But at the same time, did any of these guys genuinely love her? Did they actually want to protect her? Or did you just like what she did to your ego? Having her in your possession, what it did for your ego. I feel like I sound biased, but I feel like I'm onto something. So someone comment down below if you agree to disagree. And if you disagree, I definitely want to know why. Yeah, that is everything. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening. If you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure to give it a 5-star rating, because I know you learned something or you enjoyed it. Don't lie. Don't lie. The devil's a liar. And if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of me. And comment down below the next person that I could really drag this. I can make this a whole series of like the dark side of pretty privilege and just other stars that have dealt with this. So comment down below another person or personnel, artist, whoever that you want me to connect to this conversation, this discussion. And make sure to comment down below your thoughts and opinions. And I love you guys so much. And I cannot wait to see you guys at the next one. Bye bye.